hard cider. So it makes it canning the hard cider up, you know, too many canning up there. So the hard cider. We outgrew the cider mill. We outgrew the cider mill here. We really outgrew it. Some days it'd be 4 or 5 trailer trucks waiting to get either unloaded or loaded up. We had excellent neighbors for 30 years. This is an agricultural residential zone, but believe me, they were good to us. We put all of our truck traffic in from 111 up Little County Road, kept it out of the center of Harvard as much as we could. So the town was good and accepted us. So it was time to move it on. Yeah. We outgrew it and we wanted to move it out before something did. So that leaves us just growing apples and peaches and some small fruits. We used to grow about 60,000 bushel. We've downsized over the years. The wholesale apple industry is not very good here. We don't have the acres, the tonnage to generate the profit margin that we need. I got friends in New York that plant 50 acres. When they do a new planting out there last year, they'll plant 50 acres of trees. That's a multi-million-dollar investment.
What do you have planted here?
We're harvesting about 80 acres. Everything. So we've downsized, but the whole apple industry in Massachusetts has basically either evaporated or transformed to direct marketing and diversification. That's the reason we put this up. We've got to be diversified here, and whoever takes us over, as my brothers and I are getting older, this is an attractive point because we've diversified the operation before somebody even gets here.
Right.
And you have to do that to survive now. It's either that or hustle.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Are you having those conversations now, or is that not yet happening?
Pass it on.
Yeah.
We're in progress. Not for publication, but we're in progress.
Sure enough. Yeah.
And but nothing's final until signed on the dotted line. You know how many deals fall through.
Right.
It's not easy to find people interested in taking over a farm. Profit margin not as great as everybody expects. So that's the first determining factor for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
So we grow, we pack apples. We have a small packing line. It's an old packing line, but it still works. To modernize that packing line, 3 years ago, I got an estimate. It was $450,000 to put in a new computerized that sorts out the internal defects in the apple. But we're doing all mechanically, all by hand. Because our margins not going to justify that type of an investment at this point. We're constantly replanting. As you look out through the windows out there, you can see everything now is on the trellis system. We're on a high density planting. And we can pick as they mature, they get into the 6th, 7th, and 8th leaf. We can expect to pick about 1,000, 1,200 bushels of the acre. Where the trees out here behind us, 350, 400 to the acre.
Wow, what a difference.
You know, and it takes really experienced pickers to handle the ladders to pick those trees. So as far as
Do you mechanically harvest with
No.
the trellis system? No.
no, not yet. They're working on it. They'll have some $250,000 machines, more of a number for next year's harvest. They're using them right now in New Zealand as we speak. The harvest is dropped there more than this year in testing. But it's coming.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I can't imagine picking 120 million bushel in Washington State. It's going to take a lot of automated machines to do it. But maybe it'll be done.
Yeah.
I don't need all of us here, so. I know how to see picking machines, so they're coming. It's coming.
So talk a little bit about sort of the differences in planting. How do you manage them differently? How do you handle pesticides? How do you handle, weeding and stuff like that?
But first of all, we're IPM, Integrated Pest Management. We hire a third-party consultant, contract with a guy comes in every Monday during the growing season.
Right.
He visits us every Monday. My younger brother is a grower, so he meets with him or the three of us over lunchtime. And he's got traps, so he gets here earlier and checks the traps that he sent from Orchard. Checks those for trap counts, insect counts, and then he'll sit down and make recommendations to us what he would recommend. We can agree or disagree, and sometimes we disagree. And then we spray accordingly.
And does he manage the spraying, or do you guys?
No, we do all that. Holly does make recommendations.
Great.
It's up to us to get the best price from either one of the two companies that we deal with.
Right.
Then we spray. Now, when I graduated from ag school years ago, we sprayed every week. It's not uncommon if we get through the scab season in April, May, June, that we can pack a sprayer for 10, 14 days. In July, if we've got everything under control, don't have to use it.
Then just let it go.
Right. And then sometimes a mite infestation will break out, and we'll have to go out there and sometimes spray an extra spray that we shouldn't have had to spray. But if the right heat gets in the orchard, you get a heat wave or something, that might just fester in the heat wave.
They just blow up. Yeah.
Right, they blow right. So we use IPM. Farm workers, our harvesting crew, H2A workers. And we still have 4 here now today. They'll be leaving on the 16th, I think they leave, the 16th to go home. That's the last one. We had 11 leave on Tuesday morning. 2 left before that, a week, 2 weeks before that.
So you sort of top out at about 20?
Yeah, we used to top out at 40. The Department of Health put a restriction on camp. They changed the capacity at their will.
Right.
Not ours. They've got us down now to 18.
Right.
And I think this year we brought in 17 workers.
You have your own camp?
Yep, right down the building, right down through the windows. You can see it's a dormitory for single males. The thing we're working with public health now is some public health says they might ban bunks. And if they ban the bunks, it's going to cut our capacity in half.
Right.
I don't know. We're not there yet. We
Yeah.
have negotiations to do, but that's, I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, that may change, as we make it through into the next season.
That's correct.
So everybody's worried now. It's
That's
going
right.
to change up.
So we have cut down all the trees, replanted the high density, full grown trees.
So is the plan to sort of do that across the board over time?
We've been doing it on the home farm here. That's all we got left on the home farm. And those are about 60, 65 years old.
Right.
And,
So they'll probably get there, huh?
oh yeah, beyond that, you'll see skips out there. That's why we really shouldn't have it. That wasn't a slope. It would probably have been replanted by now, but that's not an easy place to replant. We trickle irrigate. We water most all of high density. We've got 3 wells on 2 farms. We've got this farm here, which is about 50 acres. And then we've got a 30-acre parcel on Old Woodward, called Fiction Farm, that we did an APR on. It's one of the oldest APRs in the state. And we have apples, nectarines, and a hard cider block that we just planted over there. And we planted the hard cider block in a replant of Macintosh. We got the max down and put in a hard cider variety. Hard cider varieties. We got 12 varieties of hard cider apples that make good hard cider. High tannin, high acids for dry ciders.
Any heirlooms?
And some heirlooms, yes. Yep. We took our first 500 bushel off of that this year, only the 3rd year.
What's your expected yield out of that eventually? Never mind.
Yeah, it won't be 1,000, 1,200 for the acre because these cider varieties and heirloom varieties yield up and down.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
my brother reminds me of that quite a bit. I'm not gonna see.
That's what brothers are for. Come on.
But I'm not gonna see the yield.
Yeah.
But if we're putting them in a can, we don't need to see quite the yield that we need.
Right.
From fresh oil.
Right.
The margin.
The margins there are better because you're doing the processing.
That's right.
Um,
So,
Relative to Will's question, volume, usage, and are you having any issues with drawdown?
on the wells,
Yeah.
no, we haven't.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, we have two irrigation wells hit the home farm and one over the pigeon farm. Our first attempt at doing a trickle well was up off of Pinnacle Road. And an old timer in Havant was a dowser, and he told us where the water was going to be up there. And we drilled a well and didn't really get the supply that he said was there. He accused the well driller of growing cockeyed, you know. However, we were pumping out of that, and the neighbor said they got funny color water. And wow, we said, we got a problem. And we affected the water table for them, or the veins for them. We abandoned that well, covered it in, filled it up with cement, and came down the bottom of the hill and hit a hell of a big vein. So we got a good plume of water there. But the whole Oak Hill is full of iron. So we've got good clear water, comes out clear, but it oxidizes and we get a lot of sludge and we don't get the life out of our drip lines that we should.
Right. You get the drip lines get full. Yeah.
It oxidizes and creates a sewagey looking mess when it comes out of the drip line.
Yeah.
As soon as it hits the atmosphere, it oxidizes, you get this bluish, purplish.
Yeah. Familiar with it. Yep.
And now we're wondering how much of an effect it's having on the trees.
Good question.
So we think we we think we injured a new nectarine orchard on Pinnacle, off of Pinnacle right here. So we watered it too much. 3 years ago. And last year we backed off, and this year we watered up more managed basis. We're still learning about trickle irrigation.
Yeah. Wow. And have you had any trouble with the? I mean, this is sort of a secondary question to our general. We're interested in soil today, right? But we were getting there. But have you had any trouble with drought and the wells? Are the wells doing fine?
They're fine.
Yeah, that's
We
awesome.
run about 12 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
Once in a while, we'll forget, leave one on overnight, and we gotta get, they're pumping about 50 gallons a minute.
Okay.
They're good supply.
It's solid. Yeah.
It is. And we keep them running constantly, but we don't want that pump starting and stopping with a pressure tank. We want it to pump. So we open up enough zones to give us a constant flow.
Right. Tell us a little bit about sort of when you started when you reset these guys. Did you do anything with the soil, with the ground leading up to that?
We have not been big in soil amendments. Apples don't require a lot of nitrogen. We mow everything like a golf course. We try to keep everything mowed nice for appearance or pick your own because it's a retail.
Right.
So we keep the grass mowed. You get clippings that are biodegrading all the time. So we're adding
you mulch the clippings.
we're putting nitrogen back in every week we mow. We put on some potash in the spring. We do leaf samples. And whatever our leaf samples start to show us, we kind of adjust. But the only thing we use is potash, some lime, very little nitrogen.
Do you ever do any soil?
We put calcium nitrate on the peaches.
Right.
And again, calcium because the trees lack calcium because the soil lacks calcium.
Do you ever do any soil testing and setting up for that? Or any?
Only when we're
doing a major replant.
When you're setting, as you set up for a
Yep,
replant
and
with the soil.
that means we'll give it a dose of lime and potash if it's needed. But we're not big fertilizer users. Apples are not big fertilizer users like a corn grower.
Right.
A silage corn grower puts a lot of fertilizer in with the seed.
Mhm. Other,
What about speciation? I mean, is there any kind of thought to, with the change in climate of bringing in species that are probably more suitable for, say, 100 miles south at this point, or is that not really?
Variety-wise?
Yeah.
so Chris is asking about
Yeah.
varieties for
Yeah.
climate change.
Well, New England has always been a Macintosh area. Unfortunately, I think we had that brainwashed into us as Max. And unfortunately, it's the worst apple we could have been growing because it's the hardest apple to pick, the thinnest skin, it has the highest cull rate once it hits the packing line. Because they're difficult to harvest, they get damaged in the harvesting process. Then when they get put into the grading line, the cull rate is high. Our friends in Washington State, they got hard varieties. Gala, Rayburn, Fuji's, Pink Ladies. You get hit with a head, with one of those apples, it'll kill you. They're hard, they're hard as a rock, and stay hard. They store hard. I always get softer the longer they're in storage. Macintosh. So the Macintosh industry here in New England is gone. Are we still growing Macs? Yes. Are we planting new Macs? None in the foreseeable future. The last ones we planted were right down here by the labor camp. They were different strains of Macintosh, redder strains. Are they as good? They're okay. They didn't size like we wanted them to get, but they're okay. We're planting Evercrisp. That's a new one. Of course, we started years ago with Honeycrisp. We started adding Honeycrisp, Evercrisp, Galas. We just planted a year ago, planted some Ambrosia. We planted some Crimson Crisp, all with retail in mind, direct retail, pick your own, here at the home farm. And we've got the new planting of Evercrisp over the Pigeon farm. We cut down all the Macs over there. And Evercrisp, we hope, is going to be, I mean, the response is fantastic. People are coming back for it. We didn't have enough this year. We're going to run out. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. What about your peaches and nectarines?
Peaches and nectarines, they've been good for us. Years ago, when I was a kid, we used to lose a crop of peaches 1 out of every 3 to 5 years. It'd freeze out. We had a major freeze here 3 or 4 years ago. We didn't pick a peach on the farm. Didn't pick one peach.
Wow.
Valentine's Day freeze. Valentine's Day that year, we lost. Get down about 18 below zero here. 15, 18. That did it. Well, we'll see that again. So our peaches are going, that's increasing now to do more direct. We used to wholesale most of them. Now I think we're over 50-50. It's beyond 50-50 retail. So, and we pick your own.
And are you finding that the peaches are, I mean, the freeze notwithstanding, but the peaches are growing better?
And we got different varieties we're doing. We're planting, the varieties we have now are nothing like they were 20 years ago.
Right.
We're planting different varieties, and I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
So we got a few cherries that we dabbled in. We're not going to plant any more. That's enough of those. We got probably half-acre cherries. That's enough. Well, they're either good or they're bad. I mean, they get rain and they crack.
Right.
Although the newer variety that we put in does not crack.
Oh, that's nice. Ours, I find that they come and go.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you're on a 3-year cycle.
Yeah. And the birds love them. So we have to cover them for birds. Let's see.
Huh.
What else we should touch on?
So is there some, when you're thinking about locations for new plantings
Right.
and what you're going to put in different places.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got market things you're thinking about, and
Right.
that's going to drive a lot of it. Are there, is some of that driven by the land itself and the soil and the slope and things like that, or is it's sort of, that's like totally secondary to you?
I think it's secondary,
Uh-huh.
it is. I said with the slope over here is preventing us from replanting this because we don't have the energy to start dealing with the slope and disking it, and harrowing it, and trying to get it seeded down and caught so we don't wash. Sounds simple, but it's not as simple as sometimes it appears. We're landlubbers, we're flatlanders up here on the hill. So we don't deal with that type of stuff very well. And that's the steepest part of land we own, right out here. Everything else is flat. So,
That's not terrible.
How's the number of orchards in this area changed since you like that?
oh my God.
So Bosch is asking how the number of orchards has changed.
Yeah. Well, you used to grow 60,000. The Western Orchard next door, I think one year they took over 105,000 bushels. I think they're down to about less than 20 now.
Oh.
We're down to 30, 31, something like that. There used to be a lot of other orchards in Harvard here that were maintained by people. Well, the Dover Orchards on here road was a large organization at one time. And that all disintegrated over the years. There's just Larry over there now, Larry Doe taking part of the farm that his father had. That's where his father lived that homestead there. The whole J.P. Sullivan, which is an apple broker over in Air, they had 22 or 24 packing houses in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont. And now they've got none in Massachusetts.
Wow.
They bring apples in from Chazy, Peru, New York, run them through the grader over there and pack them. Plus the packers up there pack for them under their brand. They themselves had the size of the orchard, and they cut it over half down now in the last couple of years. We can't get our return on our investment back. That's the biggest headache right now.
So the volume doesn't get you the return. It's the secondary.
If you do the volume, you gotta have big volume. Plant 100 acres, 50 acres of this at a time.
Yeah.
And I know farms in Western New York that have taken over dairy farms, but they gotta be in the right location either.
Right.
You can't, hail is a big fear around here for storms. Our parents, our father, did the right thing when he bought this piece of property. It's not a hill site. You go to Groton, you know where they're building the new Indian Hill Arts Center over there, that's a hill site. That orchard over there, we get hail 1 out of 3 years. And
Wow.
sometimes devastating. We had hail here this year, first time in probably 4 or 5 years. We built our cider mill in 75. We bought our cider equipment and created the mill in 75 because we were afraid we'd get hit with hail and have to sell our crop to Berry Farm for 2 cents a pound. And we put the cider mill in and never had hail for almost 20 years. That was a good investment, I guess. But there are hail sites. And Bolton Road will get hail.
Uh-huh.
Our orchards on Bolton Road will get hail more than we get here.
That's awesome. I mean, it's sort of fascinating that like the difference from valley to valley is so big.
Yeah. Well, you get hail for Sturdy Farm over there, not have it here. Matter of fact, we had more hail here this year on this farm than we had at Sturdy's. Sturdy's had less. And it was on Bolton Road too. So there was a narrow spot in between that didn't have very much.
Frank, could I ask you really
Yeah.
quickly, the last time we had a conversation, you and I here,
Yeah.
we talked about what's going on at the state legislature related to agritourism.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the stuff we were trying to do from a bylaw standpoint, we were kind of holding back,
Yeah.
waiting for what was going to happen at the state level. Has anything changed?
There's a bill filed. I don't know what the status of it is now. And the reason, remember, why we're leaning that way was we didn't want to create a bill in Harvard if there's going to be a state bill that was going to be over.
Right.
And we figured we'd not have that problem, going in that way. I'm not sure exactly where that stands right today.
Okay.
We had a board meeting the other day in Massachusetts, and it didn't come up, but it came up the last board meeting in the summer. It's interesting. I'm not sure where it is.
Yeah. Who do you check with for status?
Farm Bureau, Mass Farm Bureau. Brad Mitchell would be the one to check with there on that. But that's important because, gone are the days that you can't do certain things according to town bylaws. Industries change, and agritourism is something that is going to be a necessary part of continuation of farming. If they don't let us diversify and do some different things, it could mean the life or death of a farm.
Right.
And this is one of the things that we chose to do, to diversify here. So, I mean,
I always look at the Carter Stevens model for
exactly.
different variety. Have you seen Carter Stevens?
They're in
Anybody
Cali.
seen Carter Stevens? Yeah, they have literally everything. They have barbecue, they have
Oh, yeah.
full kitchen, they have
No,
events,
you coming in?
Ironman events.
You coming? Yeah. Don't let us bother you. Go about your stuff. Right, that's a diversification. Very much so. They have the brewery there.
Yep.
And they do outdoor cooking.
Right.
It's on our radar, but we're treading lightly. We can't overwhelm.
Yeah,
We can't overwhelm this town by doing too much right now.
right, and I think also there's a lot of, infighting related to what kind of thing would go in a local bylaw.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to make sure that they protect their own situation.
Yeah.
So it would be probably best from a political standpoint if it came down from the state.
Oh, absolutely. Then that was our main reason for shying away from creating a bylaw in Harvard. Let the state do it, and then we can just ride on that bylaw.
Yep.
Yeah, do you guys want to? Yeah, it'd be great if we sort of look at a couple of things. You don't have to show us around. We're happy to go poke around.
No problem. You're welcome to poke around wherever you want. I have a commitment a little bit later on. I got to take some bins back to another farm, but I'm all set for another half hour. So.
Do you want to ask for any recommendations of certain features to look at?
Yeah, actually, that's a great, thank you for that. From our perspective, we're sort of interested in how the soil and land is working to support what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so any spots on the hill that you might suggest we go take a look at, because they show something good that you'd like us to see or you think might be relevant? Or does it, I want to look at some of this.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anything stands out to me that I can think of right now that stands out more than anything else.
Places you've had trouble?
No, with soils and stuff, no.
Yeah.
No. We got a 40 acre piece of property and below the hill that we used to grow apples on. And we cut it down, 15 years ago. Had too many empires. We tried to tighten the plantings up and had the rootstocks we couldn't control because the soil was good. My father grew a lot of potatoes when we were young growing up. So most of our orchards up here are all potato fields.
I was wondering about that. I was
So
wondering,
we
sort of-
had-
so it was sort of all planted
It has
and
good
worked.
organic matter in the soil.
Right.
And I can tell you where we can see where we cleared last. It didn't have those potato years, so the organic matter is not as good in that soil.
Right. And where are the places you cleared last?
Well, one would be the Pitkin Farm over there on Old Linden Road.
Right.
That was a lot of pine forest over there that abuts the observatory. And then at the home farm here, it would be down in the backside, up against the pines that are down there on the Dunlap properties. That was kind of a oak and pine forest that we cut down and planted. That's been planted twice in my lifetime.
Oh, okay.
And we got right out front here, it's been planted, we're on the fourth planting out here now, in my time. Potatoes, 2 crops of apples, and now a new crop of apples. So we
Keep them rolling. Yeah.
have to. We have to.
Well, thank you. Go ahead.
Any other
When you
questions?
transition from apples and cut down an orchard, what are you doing with the land after that? Like, or is
So
it
keep-
different?
Keeps asking when you transition and cut down an orchard and then to set up a new one, what do you do with the land after that? I'm just repeating. So
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure I got what your question was. We're gonna replant it. We're gonna replant this out here. We go in, cut it down, stump it, plow it. Hopefully we can get a cover crop on it, and then just a cover crop under and plant. Be kind of that process.
Yep.
I do know we've done some blocks that we've cut down the trees and planted almost immediately.
right away.
There are people that, I know our extension agent from UMass was death against us replanting peaches to peaches. But I got some close friends in Connecticut, and one girl told me they've had 7 crops of peaches on the same land and never had any problem. So how do you figure it,
When you're transitioning, from one tree crop to another, ideally, what's the rotation cycle? How long do you keep it in cover crop for?
Maybe 1 year
Okay.
at the most. And as I say, some years, some crops we've gone from stump to replant. In other words, stump it in the fall and replant in the spring. Takes a lot of work to do that, though, a lot of root picking.
No.
You can't imagine how many roots these goddamn old apple trees have.
Yeah, it's kind of like us, Yeah.
And that's the problem we're having right in this town right here, replant. My son-in-law is part of a big family operation up in Hollis, New Hampshire, just over the border. They cut and burn everything.
Right.
We can't do that.
Can't do that.
And I have fought vigorously with the Department of Ag and the state. It's discrimination. All of our friends in New York do the same thing. New Hampshire, they do it. You can't burn anything over, 4 inches? They crush them up, burn them up the same day.
Just right there, just
All gone. All gone. We spend hours cutting up trees. We sell the firewood, but you don't recoup all your money on that. That's just, you can't recoup your money.
yeah.
So that's a state problem, here, burning.
Is it better for the soil to burn it because you can put it right back in?
They say it's an air problem.
Yeah.
But, it's an air problem in Massachusetts, but if you go over to New Hampshire right here, 10 feet, you can burn right open.
Well, their air is a lot clearer. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
See Kimball Fruit Farm at the Pepperell Hollis line. He pushes his brush from Pepperell into Hollis so he can burn it.
Yeah.
Literally, his orchard is on the state line. And he literally pushes his brush. So we've gone to chopping brush. We chop all of our prunings now because burning it became a headache.
Right.
And then we got the fire department that isn't too cooperative and they don't let you burn when you can burn. A good day to burn is when it's raining and you got no wind. They want you to burn when you got high winds and clear air.
Right.
And set the town on fire, you know, with brush.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna set the town on fire, that's the day to do
That's
it.
right, that's right.
Uh,
There's a lot of no common sense that gets in the way of farming.
Right. Yeah, we have heard that a lot, you know, and we understand that that's, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
and it's a problem of farming in Massachusetts.
yeah. All right,
Are there other issues like that that sort of reduce your competitive advantage here because of state or local law?
we'll take Chris outside, you don't have to.
No. Spraying is not as, we have to be careful when we spray for drift control, because drift is our problem now. We can blame the weather, but it's still our problem. So we pick times to spray, and sometimes it's at night. And in the spring of the year, when there's no leaves on the trees, the sound of the sprayer carries very, very easily across the hilltop and into the valley. A few weeks later, when you got full leaves, that noise is muffled right down. And so that's not as much of a problem then. But spraying is a problem. We gotta make sure we spray at the right time.
Anything else like that, I mean, that's a big one, and Massachusetts is again, much more regulation on that front.
Right. Yeah. No, my brother's just very careful when he sprays.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 sprayers. We try to cover our ground as fast as we can, because sometimes you have to, we have a short window. So we go with 2 machines.
Right.
Do you think, Frank, that the KLA report accurately and comprehensively captured the tax and regulatory issues that you're facing?
Oh, we got the regulatory issues. I'm not sure I can answer that. I'm really.
Sure. But I mean, hopefully what we're trying to do is, each of the projects that have come before, the Harriman project was, it sort of took it to one level, and then KLA kind of took it to the next level. And the hope is that what we're doing here might actually come up with some actionable things that we could do to help out, and certainly not in the tax and regulatory area, but at least in the natural-based solutions area.
I mean, we're fortunate for 61A. And that allows us to basically farm at a reasonable level with reasonable taxes. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be farming, I don't think. So we can't pay health lot rates and grow crops.
Right. Yeah, that seems pretty, I mean.
Yeah, that's been a very widely accepted program. And it has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise we can't survive.
Well, we really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can give you any direction or answers in the right direction.
You have given us lots of information.
You're welcome we can walk out in the orchard a little bit and take a look at some of this new high density stuff we've got in the ground. And then you're welcome to, we're not packing today. We do run a peeling line here. We're not peeling, we peel one day a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays sometimes. That's the only processing we do here now left at the farm. We have applesauce done for us. We ship our apples out, and a guy makes sauce out of it and brings them back to us in jars. We give him bins of apples and brings back jars of sauce. But again, part of our diversification, we got to things like that to survive.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's go take a walk.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I'm going to turn the camera off again for a sec, and then we'll go out on the field.
Rent highs. That's a debatable subject too.
Uh-huh.
I got a friend where I'm going with these bins in Rentham. He's never had a bee, he never rented a beehive in his orchard. Never. That's what I asked him, is he doesn't know where somebody's got some hives that he doesn't know about in the community there. We did not rent hives this year for Bolton Road. I think our yield up there was off a little bit, comparing to the other blocks in the town. So it's a little bit scary. You know, we saw a lot of wild bees this spring, and so I just canceled the 4 pallets of that orchard over there. And I don't know whether I did the right thing or not.
Yeah, it's always scary.
It's scary because, you know, you don't know whether they're giving you the crop or the wild bees are giving you the crop. But when you write that $10,000 check for the rental of the hives, you know, you wonder how you get your money's worth out of it.
Right. And then what, you know, and then if you are, you know, planting pollinator,
Right.
you know, areas around,
Right.
could you not be doing that?
That's right. And the woods, the surrounding woods, host a lot of pollinator habitat. A lot of varieties of woods in there that people like, the bees like.
Yeah.
More so than we might realize.
Let's take a walk after we go. I'm gonna take my bee right.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on right here.
Yeah.
And thanks for taking us around.
Yeah, no problem. No. This is a nice little septic system for our building. $65,000 worth of sand
Yeah, I was gonna say nice little
mound.
mound system.
You see some trees cut down there, an opening.
Uh-huh.
We had to become a public water supply because we have a new facility that has more than 25 people a day. So with all the wells we have on the farm, we had to go drill another one. So we abutted it right up against the wall. So we had to, for aquifer protection, we had to cut down our part of the radius, and the town gave us an easement on the conservation land. That's conservation land, that woods there. For the other half of the radius, which was a huge task to get through the legislature. It had to go through the legislature.
Right.
Because it was town property. And the little red shed there is houses the equipment that treats the water. We had some arsenic and iron. So
So do you filter for the iron?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So it happened to be a pit with a pump in it years ago, and so we set it on top of that. We bring the water up to that, and it goes down to the labor camp here. That's our dormitory facility down there in the field, down here in the woods, and then the rest of it, water comes up here to the farm. So we had to cut down those trees, 100 trees we had to take out just for the aquifer protection. We can't do anything with that soil. Right. Can't grow anything on it. I said to the lady from
Is it the first time you've had to be considered a public water supply for this?
Yeah, because we built a new facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's over $50,000 in that well. You know,
Familiar with it.
with all the consultants and everything else.
Yep. All the work on the town.
So where, you know, you can see the color way down there against the end. You can see there's a couple of varieties there that got browner leaves on them than the rest of them. Every variety is kind of uniquely different, and it was more brilliant a week or so ago. But every variety poles different colors in the leaves as they shed them off for the winter. As they have different color blossoms, we start in the spring. But we've replanted this and basically geared it for pick your own, so people can get in, walk out there. We used to do a lot of wagon rides. We didn't load the wagon at all this year.
Well.
Because everybody, no one asked for it.
Yeah, I
No
believe
one
it.
asked for it. We spent a lot of money and took the hay out, put down wood seats, had it all ready to go, but we never used it one day. But
Maybe next year.
maybe next year, maybe.
You've got a lot of bittersweet vine in your tree line.
Yes,
Any trouble with the bittersweet or
Yeah.
some of the other invasive things?
yes,
moss,
yes,
that sort of thing?
yes. We have 3.5 miles of deer fence around our properties here, Bolton Road, Sturdy Road, Oak Hill Road down the road here. I think we have a crew of about 6 Jamaicans, and they spend almost 2 weeks every year cutting that damn bittersweet. I should be more aggressive and put some real toxic herbicide. I mean, we spend a lot of money. 2 weeks every year, 6 men adds up. But yeah, bittersweet's a real problem. And if we don't keep that deer fence clean, I remember a few years ago seeing a deer fence in New Hampshire that had been neglected, and it just rots. The wire just rusts, and pretty soon you can walk right through it.
Which means the deer walk right to it.
They push the through. They push the way through. So
Do you have anyone out seasonally culling deer? Do you hunt out on the orchard?
no, we don't need it. We don't allow anybody because they're fenced.
Right.
Yeah, we don't. It's hunting. I think hunting in Harvard is, there's some open areas. That's a big conservation. There's about 30 acres of that one over there. That's conservation. There's deer in there, I'm sure, in that woods. But it's hard to hunt in Harvard. You got to know where you're shooting.
Yeah, you got to really know where you're going. Yeah.
Or you'll put buckshot on somebody's plate.
Yeah.
Right through the windows. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
The cover type grasses you using between the trees?
So Casey's
conservation
asking about
mix
cover.
sometimes.
Casey's asking about cover type
Um,
grasses.
The last seed we put down was conservation mix. Short growing, not a tall grass. We try to keep the clovers out. We don't want any clovers. Really? Yeah.
Why is that?
Bad for it attracts some bees when we want to be spraying.
Uh-huh.
So we try to keep the clovers out.
Cool.
Keep the clovers out. Blueberries. Some of those bushes down there are 50 years old, over 50 years old.
Those are the blueberries down there.
Yeah.
They're red.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we got another patch over on the other side.
Awesome.
Oh, let's see what else.
Okay.
I don't know.
Some orchards where they spray underneath the trees.
Yeah, herbicide.
I was just asking about spraying under the trees.
We
and
do.
orchards.
That's an ongoing discussion between my brother and I. I accuse him sometime of becoming an organic farmer,
Heaven forbid.
but again, it costs a lot of money. Those guys have been out there pulling grass away from those trees.
Yeah.
For mouse protection for the winter. Let that grass build up, you've automatically got a home for the mice. My brother goes through and he broadcasts a bait with a broadcast spreader over the whole orchard. We wait 3 or 4 days, and then the crew goes out with a pail of bait. And we got a lot of shingles out in the orchard, tap paper shingles laying in between the trees, and we put a teaspoon under that bait, under the shingle.
You don't rent ferrets or anything?
No. And
Damn bees.
that's right. And
Wait, rent ferrets? Is that what you said?
yeah, ferrets kill mice.
There you go. Rent
Yeah.
ferrets.
No, our ferret is up on the top of that tower up there, big hawk. Red-tailed hawk, they're our best friend.
Yeah, I bet
They-
they keep
they-
doing a pretty good job.
They do, they do. You know, we start the mower up in the summertime. They're out there going from pole to pole, waiting for the mice to start moving. And yeah, they're really amazing creature to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, we spend a lot of time cleaning that grass away from those trees. Our father would kill us if he saw those trees out there now without wire guards on them. We used to put wire guards on them, but now when you plant 1,100, 1,200 trees to the acre at a buck or two a piece, it adds up. So we got brave now. We don't put wire guards on.
You can respond. And so what that means is just you have to be more active in
Yeah.
managing the mice.
Yeah,
some
and
of the
keeping
other-
the grass mowed down helps. We have a fleet of weed whackers, and Jamaicans can
come out.
they can mow grass pretty tight with a weed whacker. Believe me.
Jim, do you know if there's any questions for Frank in the chat?
There have not been. There's been a whole discussion about your comment about burning, and Rebecca Longwall from Bolton, was commenting on that, and Hillary. So Hillary King, the project we're working on is funded through the state, through the MVP, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. Hillary King is the administrator
Right.
for our area.
Yeah.
And so she's listening as well.
Okay.
We're going to be able to capture that chat, right?
Yeah. We have it automatically gets saved onto my phone.
Awesome.
There you go.
About terabytes.
Yeah, because there's great stuff in the chat. That's good.
Well, I don't. You know, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to try to to reach me. I'd be glad to try to answer.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Do we have any other questions about? So you just took a little look. Any questions about sort of ground, soil management?
Yeah, so Frank,
Can you come here and say it over by this thing? Yeah, thank you.
sure. When you're doing your applications of potash and lime,
Yeah.
are there different rates that you apply typically for the standards versus the dwarfs?
No. I'd say it'd be about the same.
Yeah.
About the same rate per acre. You know, and I think that's based on the fact that this type of tree right here, the roots go way out.
Yeah.
And those are more concentrated. The high density planting, they're still all right there.
Yeah.
So I mean, except I can do 2 rows at a time on the high density and have to go every bay on the older trees.
Right.
It'll be a certain ton per acre.
And you're getting those recommendations from your leaf samples?
Yes.
Yep.
Leaf sample and working with a fertilizer company.
Yeah.
We're
So-
trying to use the leaf sample analysis. We don't want them selling us fertilizer for nothing.
And so do you review the tests and then get a recommendation?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Based on that?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Awesome. Great. Is there any are there any barriers that you're facing from doing things with your soil in particular that you would do if it was less expensive or if you had more access to consulting or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't. No. Because again, we're a perennial crop.
Yeah.
We plant it, seed it. It's there until we remove it. Where the guy's doing vegetables.
Yeah.
It's in and out, in and out. My friend at Wilson Farms in Lexington always used to say, "Why don't you grow this variety of apple?" I would say, we're not living in the world that you live in, where you plant your lettuce crop 3 times during the summer, and you can change the variety 3 times if you want. And on top of that, we have to order our trees 2 years out in advance. So we don't have that luxury of changing, and we put it in, it stays there for a while. You know, that's,
I mean, what's the rotation on these new trees here?
well, you know, that's a good point. I haven't seen any high density plantings come out of the ground yet.
Okay.
I'd say Motugas might have some of the older ones over in Northborough. Our oldest planting is down back, right against the woods, to the left of those stakes that are piled up there, tree stakes. I think we planted that in 2001.
And they're doing fine.
They're fine.
Yeah.
No hurry to take those out right now.
So are you, Bosh, are you thinking that the timing is different than these guys? Shorter?
Well, they come on faster, right?
Yeah.
So you could, if there was some new fancy variety,
Well, and I think now what limits us is the space. Do we have the space? No. We have the space. We got it. We worked ourselves into a problem right here because we had a lot of McCowans, older McCowans over there, and you know, we cut too many of them down. And now we're short of McCowans. We cut them down, replanted just ambrosia and suncrest, but now we lost a lot of production of McCowans. We got new McCowans right here, 4 rows of them, but it's not enough to come in fast enough.
Do the McCowans have the same issue with the thin skin as the Macintosh?
No, they're a little bit tougher.
Somebody was asking if the McCowans have
But that's,
thin
you know,
skin.
the McCowan it's strictly a dessert apple from the standpoint that it's Honeycrisp cut into the McCowan
Yeah,
demand.
yeah.
It did.
Oh, yeah.
What's going to cut into Honeycrisp now? Evercrisp is cutting into a little bit. We got the storage ability problems with Honeycrisp that we've come up with in the last couple of years. They pick up and put them in storage, and they kind of melt in the storage room. And we think we know what we did wrong. We picked them, we conditioned them in a separate cooler at 50 degrees for 5 days, and then we put them in our regular cooler room at 33, 34 degrees, and they can't take anything less than 38. And but it took a few years for that to be discovered.
I think the last question that I have is sort of looking to the future, and one of the things in Massachusetts and kind of nationally that people are dealing with is, you know, the real economic challenges of keeping agriculture alive and meeting all of the other kind of goals that society has. And one thing that's been considered is payment for ecosystem services, like paying farmers based on the amount of carbon that's being pumped into the soil through whatever they're doing. And as a perennial crop grower, it seems like that would be a potential benefit to you. Do you have any thoughts about how that system might work? Would that be something you'd be interested in?
Jeez, I don't know. I haven't really. I don't think I've kept up with some of that I've been hearing or reading about.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but I don't think I've followed that along as much as I probably should have.
Well, it's pretty new.
Yes, it is. I know that. Yeah. And you know, how much carbon are we putting into the earth or the environment?
Yeah, I mean, it varies, and
That's right.
one of the things that has been part of that conversation is the need to do baseline testing.
Yep.
And is it site specific? You know, do people come out to your farm, or is it type specific?
Yeah.
Oh, you're an apple orchard that has these set of practices, so here's the average.
Yeah. Boy.
Could I ask you, if you know, is there a like a per acre yield that an operation could benefit from that kind of practice? And once it's done, does that land have to lay fallow for a certain period of time?
Oh, well,
Right, so Chris is asking about what
Those are good
practices
questions.
might make sense and what the
and it
financial yield
varies
might be in a
because
situation like that.
terrestrial soils have a saturation point for soil organic carbon. And so it kind of depends on where you start and where you can get to and what system you're using. So for an apple orchard, you could be sequestering a certain number of tons per acre per year. That would be more than a vegetable grower, which has a high disturbance system. So all of that
Is there a dollar per acre?
the project drawdown and a number of other economic analyses I've looked at sort of set the viability, sort of make it, a global attractive rate to make it a workable market, both for farmers and for buyers, is somewhere between $100 and $200 a ton. So, so we know like agriculture, on average, has about I think it's around 40 tons per acre of soil organic carbon, which is about half the weight of soil organic matter. So we could say about 80 to 90 tons of soil organic matter per acre. Orchards would be higher than that. Some vegetable production in sandy soils would be lower than that.
Anybody starting maybe a pilot project in some markets?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interest in this and a bunch of people working on it.
Yeah.
Right now. So it's something that will come up. And so I think Keith's point is that in this kind of setting, right, in the orchard setting, because you don't till all the time, that you have an opportunity to actually there's a lot more opportunity to take advantage of that kind of thing. But the prices, it's all pretty up in the air, and the standards are not particularly well defined, and so
A lot of work
it'll be a
to
little
done.
bit.
So
A lot
much
of
work.
to be done.
And the other thing is that ideally, right, in order for that to work for you, it doesn't change what you're having to do very much, maybe a little bit. And certainly the concept is that it doesn't change what you're going to do in a way that costs more than what you're going to get out of it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. The idea is that it's an add-on.
Yeah.
Especially in an expensive market like Massachusetts.
Right.
That would help keep farming alive.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of a cool thought, but it's sort of a question. It's like, all right, well, how does this work for somebody like you guys?
Right.
You got all these zillion. I mean, you got a lot of business lines happening here.
Yeah.
And all right, we should probably go.
Yeah.
Because we're headed to Rogers Field.
Great.
And it's a little ways away. And
Thank you for coming.
hey, listen, Frank, thanks a ton
No
for
problem.
spending so much time with us
No problem.
and giving us all kinds of great information.
Well,
Fantastic.
I hope it's beneficial.
It was a really
If you get a little bit, that's
Yeah, absolutely.
Come back anytime.
All right. Thanks a ton, Frank.
so much.
All right.
Um, yeah, why don't you, if you can come in and talk closer, it's better.
I'd really hate to see him sell to an external party, and we don't know them, and they might not have the same care and love for the land, care and love for Harvard. It's just one of those things that you wish there was a stronger succession opportunity for some of these farms, but it just
It's tough.
it's a tough game. And if we can roll out some of these mechanisms sooner to save the, the succession, make them not feel that they really have to sell out. I mean, one of the things that we were looking at for the KLA project preceding this is TDR.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if anybody from Devon's is on this right now, but I have spoken to Peter Lowett about a regional TDR program whereby maybe the farms could sell the development rights over to Vicksburg Square in Devon's so that they can maybe build more dense housing over there, and it could be a quid pro quo kind of thing. So something to think about.
It's coming up in a bunch of our conversations across municipalities. I just wanted to take a quick sec. So you put together the carbon maps for here. Can we take 5 minutes and talk about what do we know from our maps of this site? You mind talking?
Yeah, I can think about it.
You want me to hold that?
No, it's only what the soil actually occurring on this as far as cancer. So we can see here that these are, in the lower to medium organic carbon. So we're looking at like between 10 and 20.
I bet that looked really good.
Not fast enough.
We're looking at between 10 and 20,000 grams per meter squared of SOC. And just to remember, we're funding 80,000 for wetlands, and then down to like 3,000 or 4,000 for some
Let's decamp to Rogers Field.
Yeah, big picture, just to kind of like the snowboard there. The key with this site would be keeping it in the current land cover and tweaking some of the other, some of the management processes to get other co-benefits, but they're not so focused on soil improvement. It'd be like including more stuff around water infiltration or pollinators
Or habitat or something.
Yeah,
And adjacent sites where we can draw the wild pollinators away at the times when they are spraying. Say if they have to keep down clover here, if there's somewhere nearby where we put out particular species for a high yield there.
right, like in a horse pasture. Or
Yeah.
something.
And also, if it's not burning, there's a lot of organic matter in the trees. If they're taking out trees, what's happening with that? Where's that carbon going?
Yeah.
Could they be composting it? Could they be making it into biochar?
Yeah.
Some other function.
Right.
And could they get some community support such as a Boy Scout or Girl Scout project to help pull out the invasive species, for instance?
Cool. Good. Nice.
All right, I'm going to join you guys online. So
Well, it seems to be a thing.
it'll be interesting to see it from the other side of the coin. But thank you so much for coming out here.
Thank you, Chris, for making this happen.
Great. I think this has probably been one of the more valuable consulting town interfaces that we've experienced through the MVP program. So,
Oh, well, that's a lovely thing to say. Did you hear that, Hillary?
Well, yeah, I mean, just Frank's perspective is so rich.
So I'm going to turn us off, and we're going to reconvene. We'll probably miss Westward, maybe stop by later. We're going to reconvene at Rogers Field. We're supposed to be there at about 10:30, 10:40. We'll see if we make it. We're sneaking up on it. And we'll be back at you. I'll text Lauren when we start to get there. So thank you, everybody. We'll be back. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.